Hello there. Welcome back to grade 11 accounting. In this video, we want to look at a question on manufacturing, and we are going to look at 2.1 in particular, according to this question too. So we've got this question which consists of two invalid questions, but we are going to try to look at 2.1, which is for Happy Paws pet food. And then on the required part, 2.1.1, calculate the amount of raw materials issued for production in 2020. So for us to answer it, we need to go through the information of the question first. So if you go down, you'll see that we are given information A, whereby we're given the following balances appeared in the books of Happy Paws Pet Food, whereby we're given balances on 30 September 2020. Obviously, this is going to be our closing balance because this is a later balance, a later date, and then we are having an earlier date here, 1 October 2019. Obviously, this is going to be our opening balances. So this is a column for opening balances and for closing balance. And we're given direct or raw material stock, and then we're given work in progress stock, and then we're given indirect material stock. So we go to the next page and try to see what do we have again. We now have information B whereby we're given transactions for the year, and we're given a list of balances that we are given there. And if you go to information C, it is also on additional information, and we are specifically looking at production wages, where we're given information of production wages, and then we go to the information is still going. We are still having a continuation of this information. This information 4, which is the last on this page, we can just go try to see on the next page, which is going to be our last page. So we are seeing that the information again is coming down to information 7. So this is going to be the end of our question. So this information that we're going to use in the question. So we go back to the first question that we want to look at, and which is asking us to calculate the amount of raw materials issued for production. So we are saying raw materials issued, raw materials issued for production. So we are just going to bring down the formula that we are going to use there to calculate that raw materials issued for production. So we are going to say it is equal to our opening stock of raw materials. We add purchases of raw materials. If there are purchase returns of raw materials, we are also supposed to subtract them here. And then the net figure, we are supposed to add, after getting this figure, we are supposed to add carriage inwards of raw materials if we are given in the question. And also, if we have got custom duties of raw materials, again, we add them. Depending on any transportation cost that is going to increase the value for purchases. And then at the end, we are supposed to subtract your closing stock. So depending on the question, some questions may not have some of the elements, like some questions won't have purchase returns, some won't have carriage inwards or custom duties. So you just pick the figures that are there and then put them in the formula to get your final answer. So if you get there, if you go there, you would see that now we want now to identify the figures in the formula, the elements of the formula. Remember, here we have got opening and closing balances of raw materials, which is in this row. So we are going to have opening balance, which is 48,000, and then we add purchases. Remember, according to the formula. So we look for the figure for purchases. Obviously, we are going to find it in this list of balances, whereby we are having our raw materials purchased during the year is 650,000. So we are going to add 650,000. And then we also have carriage of raw materials purchased. Remember, we said carriages, we are supposed to add them. We add them. And then in terms of returns, we are seeing that we are not even seeing returns there. So we can go to additional information to find out if we've got anything about returns or anything that is going to adjust that formula. So if you come to information 2, it is included in the amount of raw materials are goods that were not ordered. Therefore, it was returned to suppliers. We've got 35,000 rand. So this is representing purchases and returns of raw materials. So we're going to subtract them. And then finally, we are supposed to subtract the closing stock. Remember, we've got the closing stock of raw materials, which is at 20,000. When we subtract 20,000, with that now, we can now be able to find the figure for raw materials issued for production. So this is exactly what we have. So we go to the other section and try to bring down the formula first, and then we make the calculations. So this is our answer section. So we are saying we are looking at 2.1.1, whereby saying calculate the amount of raw materials issued for production in 2020. So we are saying it is equal to our opening stock according to the figures that we have in the question, and then we add our purchases. And remember, we identified purchase returns again. We subtract them, and then we add our carriage inwards. and we subtract our closing stock according to the information given in the question. So basically, we are saying now we are substituting the figures that we got. We are saying the first figure that we are supposed to have there is 48,000, representing our opening stock. And then we add our purchases, which is 650,000. We subtract purchase returns, which is 35,000. We add carriage inwards, which we are given as 12,300. And finally, we are supposed to subtract the closing stock, which we are given as 20,000. So when you do that, the final answer that we are supposed to get there should be 655,300. 655,300. So this represents the amount of raw materials, which is in rands, amount of raw materials issued for production in 2020. So this is the answer that we have for 2.1.1. Then we go to the second part of the question. The second part of the question and try to see what we have. So if you go to the second part, we'll see that it's saying now calculate the direct labor cost. Calculate the direct labor cost. So this is the second part, and you are already given a 9 there pre-entered. So we are going to the question and try to see how can we come up with the normal time in terms of our labor cost. So you go to information given in the question. You'd see that we have some information that we are given here in terms of production wages. That's where we're going to have the wages. So what we are going to do is calculate the normal time. We are told that there are 9 employees, and the normal time hours per employee is 1,240 hours, which means total number of hours for all the employees is going to be 9 times 1,240 to get the total. And then overtime hours, we are not concerned about overtime hours at the moment because we want the normal time, and we got the normal rate now, 45 rands pay, obviously per hour. Then you multiply by 45. You multiply by 45. There we're going to multiply by 45. And then this is what we have. Then we can calculate it as such, and see that when you calculate it, you're going to get 502,200. So we go to the other section and go and enter that calculation. Remember, we are calculating the normal time amount. Then we say 9. Our 9 is already pre-entered. We multiply by 1,240 hours per each worker. And then we multiply by 45, which is the rate, 45 rand, which is the rate per hour. And then obviously the answer that we are supposed to get there becomes 502,200. Then you go to the contributions. If you go to the contributions, let's try to see information given in terms of contributions. We come here, you'd see that contributions were given here, and we're given that deduction and contributions are calculated on basic salary, pension funds, and the contribution that we are concerned with is for the employer. We are not concerned about the employee. We are concerned about the employer. So we're going to say 5% of the basic salary, of which the basic salary represents the normal time that we've just calculated. So we're going to say 5% of that amount, 502,200, and we get the pension fund. Then for the UIF, we're going to say 1% of the figure that we got, 502,200 again, and then we get the amount for UIF. So basically, and then we add the two to get the total contribution now for the employer. So we go to the other section and just calculate it as such. So for contributions, remember we are saying we are going to have 5%. The first calculation is on 5%, and 5% is 5 over 100. And then we multiply by the answer that we got here, which is 502,200 over 1. And the answer that we are supposed to get there becomes 25,110. And then we calculate it that, and then we get our answer 25,110. Then the second part of the question, we are using 1%, which is UIF now. We are saying for UIF, we are saying 1%, which is 1 over 100. We multiply again by the same amount, 502,200. So we can just maybe try to make some space here. Obviously, here we are saying over 1. And then we calculate it as such, 1 over 100, which is 1% times 502,200. And then the answer that we are supposed to get is 5,022. So here we have 5,022. Then the total figure now becomes, now we are adding the 2, whereby we are saying 25,110 plus 50,000. This is second one is 5,022. And then the total figure that we are supposed to get there is 10,132. So we are saying 10,132 becomes the final answer that we have for total contributions. Then we go to the next part, which is on overtime. Overtime, again, we are going to, we know that we've got 9 workers. So this is the 9 that we have. We multiply by the other elements. Obviously, we are going to check the total number of hours that are there per employee, and then we multiply by 9. So overtime, we are having normal time, overtime hours worked per employee is 365. So you say 9 times 365, and then I'll multiply by the overtime rate, which is 2 times the normal rate. The normal rate is 45. So it's 2 times, so it's times 2. So you're going to use 90 rand as our overtime rate per hour. So it's just like 9 times 365, then you multiply by 9. So just go and summarize as such here in the other section. So basically, we are saying 9 times 365, and then we multiply by the rate, which is 90 rand. Then the answer that we are supposed to get here is 295,650. So this is the answer that we are getting here. And then we have the next part, which is on total labor costs. So on total labor costs, we are going to add the normal time. The normal time that we have, and obviously we are going to add the overtime, and also we are supposed to add the contribution for the employer. So basically, we are saying normal time. The normal time figure that we got is here, which is 502,200. We add to the contribution total 30,132, and then we add the last one overtime is 295,650. Get the total. So here we are now saying total direct labor hours. We are saying 502,200. I'll add 30,132, and then we add 295,650, and then the total figure that we are supposed to get there supposed to be 827,982. 827,982. So this is the final answer that we have. So which means we are done now with the calculation that we have there on that part. Then we can go and try to see what we have on the next part. From there now, let's see the next question. Right, we go to the 2.1.3 now. It's saying prepare the following accounts in the general ledger. We are using the factor overhead cost, and then we've got work in process stock. So what we are going to do on that, we are going to start with the factor overhead cost. So on factor overhead cost, obviously we are going to list all the overheads on the debit side of the factor overhead costs, and then obviously after listing them at the total, we are supposed to transfer it to the work in process stock. So we obviously credit factor overhead cost with the total, and then we post it to the debit side of the work in process stock, so that at the end of the day we can be able to have our balance sheet in the work in process, and also we are going to have a transfer that we are going to have to the finished goods from the work in process stock account. So this is what we have. So we can just try to go to the other section and try to see the factor overhead cost account that we have. So this is the factor overhead cost account that we have. So we are going to list all the overhead that we have on the debit side, and then the total will come here as we transfer into the working process stock account. So let's just try to do a search and see. So we have to come here on transactions for the year and try to pick all the overheads that we are seeing in this list of balances. And obviously, after picking the overhead, we need to see how are we going to apportion it between the factory and maybe the factory and the office and the sales department. So we go there, we go down. You see that the first overhead that we are seeing there is factory rent paid, and it's 68,400. But we need to see how are we going to apportion it between the departments that we have there. So if you go down, you'd see that we have got the instruction here on item 3. He's saying water and electricity and rent are to be split between the three departments according to floors, which is factory covering 800 square meters, office 180 square meters, sales department 200 square meters. So basically what we are saying is this ratio, we can just maybe come up with a ratio there whereby we are saying 800 is to 180 is to 220. And obviously, this is going to be a factory and office and sales department. So basically, to make this ratio simple, we have to add the two whereby we are saying, and it becomes our denominator, whereby we are saying our 800 plus 180 plus 220. And see what do we get there. If you add there, you are going to see that you are going to get your, we say 800, you add your 180, and then you add your 220, you see that you are going to get your 1,200. So it means the total here is 1,200. And obviously now, if you are for factory, we are going to say our representation is 800. So we're going to say 800 over the total is 1,200. Then we can multiply with the overhead that we are looking at. For example, water and electricity, we can use this ratio for factory, and then also rent we use the same. So here we are concerned about rent, so we are just going to rent and pick the total figure that we are given there. Remember, we try to identify it there, and we are seeing that is 68,400. So basically, the ratio that you've created there multiplied by 68,400, where we are saying 800 over 1,200 times 68,400. So we go to our answer section and present it as such on the debit side of our factor overhead cost account. So here, remember on the date there, we can just try to again identify the date. This is at the end of the period. Let's just try to identify where our year is ending. If you come here, you try to see where can we get the date. This is 30 September, 30 September 2020. So we are going to use the date September 30. There for 2020 is going to come in. So here we are saying September. September 30. So this date is going to apply to all the overheads that we have need to list there. Then here we are saying rent. In all the calculations, remember we are saying 800 over 1,200. So we are saying 800 over 1,200, and then we multiply by 68,400. And then we see what we get there. So we are saying 800, let's just try to calculate 800, then you divide by 1,200. And then the answer that you are supposed to get, you multiply by 68,400. And then you are going to get 45,600, which is going to come in. So this is what we have in terms of our rent. Then we go to the next overhead that we are having in that list. You're seeing that after rent, we've got advertising is not part of it's not part of the factory overheads. Remember, it's part of sales. Then we leave it. We go to factory maintenance page, which is 46,700. So this one we are not going to allocate it. We take it as it is because it's not an expense that is overlapping between departments, as in between the sales and the office section. As compared to rent, because rent we are saying we are using the same premises, but we only have a section that we have for manufacturing and then for sales and then office. So for factory maintenance, we are going to take it as it is as 46,700. So we can just go and put it as it is. So the next one is going to be factory maintenance. Due to space, I'm just putting the abbreviations here according to the space that I have here. But you can write it in full, that factory maintenance, and then you can have 46,700. And then we go to the next overhead that we have got after factory maintenance, we've got water and electricity paid 75,000, and we are still using that ratio of 800 over 1,200. So it's 800 over 1,200, and then we multiply by water and electricity, which is 75,000. So we just do the calculation as such. So here we're saying water and electricity, and we are saying in brackets we are going to say 800 over 1,200, and then we multiply by the amount that we have for electricity, 75,000. We are split over 1. Then the figure that you get there is going to be your 50,000. Right, so we go again and try to check the next overhead that we have. So on the next overhead, we have, after water and electricity, we've got indirect material purchased. So for indirect materials, we are going to again use the formula. This is what was purchased, but what we want to calculate is the cost of indirect material, the cost. So the cost that we are going to calculate, we are going to use again the formula of saying opening stock of indirect materials. We add purchases of indirect materials, we subtract closing stock of indirect materials. As simple as that. So if you come here in the figure that we are given here, at the beginning of the information, we are told that indirect materials here, we have got opening stock of 7,200, closing stock 7,500, and then the purchases is also listed here in the list of balances, whereby we are saying purchases of indirect material. We should see it here. Indirect material purchased 56,000. We are having 56,000, so we are supposed to add 56,000. Remember, we said open stock plus purchases, so we add 56,000, and then we subtract the closing stock, which is 75,000, according to the balances that we are having there. 7,500 is the closing of indirect material, opening 7,200. So we can go there and just summarize that working. So here we are saying indirect materials, materials, and then we just summarize the working there by saying opening stock 7,200. We add purchases that we are saying 56,000. And then finally we subtract closing stock, which is 7,500. And then also we can close our bracket, and the net figure I put it there, which is 55,000. 55,700. So here we've got 55,700. So this is the figure that we have. So after indirect materials, we can just try to see what we have next. We've got sundry expenses paid of 21,000. Then sundry expenses again, we try to see how are we going to allocate it according to additional information. Let's try to see. I will try to see according to the information that we are given, maybe we can get allocation of certain expenses. Let's try to move on to the next page. We see that we have got an allocation of certain expenses on item 5. Certain expenses must be allocated in the ratio of 4:2:1. Obviously, factorial is going to be this one. Obviously, we need the total. 4 plus 2, you get 6 plus 1, you get 7. So it's going to be 4/7 for factorial. So we say 4/7 times the figure for certain expenses that you are given there. 4/7. You see 4/7 times figure for certain expenses, which is this one, 21,000. 4/7 times 21,000. So this is how we can calculate that one. So certain expenses, we are saying 4/7 times 21,000. So this is what when you calculate the research, you're going to get your 12,000. 12,000 is the answer that we have. And after that, we also go and try to see which other expense do we have. So if you come here, you see that we've got a factored, after some expenses, we've got factored foreman salary, 135,850. We take it as it is and take it there, this one. And then we check again if you have got anything that is still pending. We go to additional information, you see that we are given also depreciation, whereby our depreciation is going to be 9,500 plus 12,800. We have got 9,500 for office equipment, 12,800 for factory machinery. And, but we know that factory machinery is the one that is pertaining the manufacturing. So this is the overhead. So office equipment is supposed to go to the office section. So we are not going to include all of them, but we are only going to take the figure that we have for factory, which is 12,800. So we've got 12,800 there for depreciation. And then the factored foreman is 135,850. So you can just go in put the last expenses that we have, expenses in the form of manufacturing overheads that we have there that are still remaining. So we go there. So remember, we were saying the first one is depreciation. Depreciation. And the figure that we got there is 12,800. Then we also have factored foreman. And factored foreman, we are able to 135,850. So this is what then we can now be able to add all the overheads that we have, and then the total comes in between the lines. So if we add from this figure down to this figure, the total that we are supposed to get there is 358,000. 358,650. And it's supposed to come both sides. In between the double lines, it's also supposed to be 358,650. So this is what we, and you see that on the credit side, we have nothing there. So we are going to transfer that amount to the work in process stock. So here we are going to have work in process stock. And we are going to put this total that we have here, which is 358, which is our 358,650. So the date, remember, is also September 30. So this is what we have according to the factored overhead cost account. Then obviously this figure now, that's what we are saying, we are going to transfer it now to the debit side of the working process. So remember this double entry, we have credited factored overhead costs with this amount. Then the corresponding entry, we are going to debit the working process stock account, of which in this question, we have that account that needs to be opened. So we go to that section of working process, and we see that this is the working process that we have. So let's just try to enter it there. And remember, we are starting with the balance. We'll start with the balance that we have at the beginning. Remember, for working process, we have a balance that we have there at the beginning of the period that we are given in the question. We can as well try to refer back to that balance. We are here, working process, we are here, working process stock, and this is the opening balance column. So this one is the opening. So we're going to say 31,000 is our opening. Sorry, 35,000 is our opening. So we go there. So we are using our 35,000. So this is the opening for working process. So we are also able to go, we have to transfer that factor overhead cost figure that we are transferring from our factory overhead cost, which is going to be this one. So let's just try to see this figure that we remember we are debiting it to the working process stock. So we come in, so put it our details. We are saying this is from factory overhead cost. So we are saying factory overhead cost. Factory overhead cost. So this is the figure that we have, which is 358,000. That is 58,650. Then we also have to check in terms of the direct material issued. Remember, we calculated that one. Direct material issued, we calculated that one. We are also supposed to put them on the debit side of working process. So we are saying we calculated the figures here. We are saying direct material issued. We found it as 655,300. This is the figure for we are going to put again on the debit side of working process. And also we have the direct labor figure that we calculated here is 827,982. We also put it on the debit side of the working process. So we go there. So here we are saying that we have got raw material issued. Raw material issued, and the amount that we have there is 655,000. 300, and then we also have direct labor costs. So we are saying direct labor costs, and the figure that we have there is 827,982. So these are the figures that we have. So we are now going to go to the credit side, entries that we are supposed to put on the credit side. Remember, we can go to the question and try to see what other information there that we can put on the credit side. So you can go through the additional information and try to see. Right, we've got the finished goods equivalents that we are supposed to transfer now to the trading account, which is here, which is being explained here that 40,300 units were produced during the year at a cost of 44.70 per unit. So we're going to multiply 40,300 times 44.70 to get the finished goods that we are going to put on the credit side of working process. So we can try to go there and make that calculation. So we are saying we are having on the credit side now we are saying finished goods. And the calculation that we have there, we are saying it's 40,300. Then we multiply by 44.70. And then the total figure is 1,801,410. So this is what we have. And then we can also try to see if we have got any other entry that we have omitted there. that we need to put again on the credit side. So let's just try. So having this now, we can go to item 7. Remember, whenever we have got donations, we are supposed to put them on the credit side of work in process stock. But if you read the question 7, they're saying some of the completed pet food was donated to the SPCA. This donation was taken directly from the factory and delivered to the SPCA. So we are not given the figure for the donation that we are supposed to put on the credit side. So obviously, we are going to find this figure as a balancing figure. So remember, the closing balance we are supposed to find the figure that we have for a donation as a balancing figure. So what we are going to do is we can go to our balances at the beginning and see the closing balance that we have. The closing balance that we have work in process, progress stock that we have there. We have a closing balance of 75,000. So we can just go and put it there. Then donation figure, we can always find it as a balancing figure. So if you come here, you see that on the other section. We are saying our donation figure. We are going to put it here. So we are having our donation as a balancing figure. We are going to leave it here, and then we can now put our balance CD. In the balance CD, we're given it as 75,000. And then we can, when you try to calculate, okay, we are putting it in the wrong, this is the wrong account that we are supposed to put these figures. We can go to the working process. So we are here. So what we are saying is the donation figure is supposed to come here, and we're saying donation, we are not given the figure, so it's supposed to come as a balancing figure here. But the balance CD, CD, we are given it in the question, so we can just try to go back and reconfirm the balance CD that we have at the end of the period. So if you come here, I would see that for work in progress, we have got a balance CD of 75,000. Because this is the balance at the end, the balance at the beginning, 75,000. We put it at the beginning of the account, then this one becomes the balance at the end, which is the balance CD 75,000. So you can come here. So we are saying we've got 75,000 here. There's our balance CD. So we can find donations here as a balancing figure. So what we are going to do is we are going to add the total of the debit. Obviously, it's going to be the greater total with a total of 1,876,932. The same will come here is 1,876,932. Then you subtract it, you subtract this amount, I'll say 1,876,932 minus 75,000 minus 1,801,410 to get the balancing figure for donation. And let's try to calculate it and see what we get there. Whereby saying 1,876,932, and then you subtract your balance CD 75,000, and then you subtract again the finished goods 1,801,410, and you're going to get 522. So basically, we are saying here the figure that we are getting is our finished goods as a balancing figure. It's 522. So basically what we are saying is this figure 522, we got it as a balancing figure. And why did we find it as a balancing figure is because the statement that we have here, which is mentioning about donations, if you come here, you would see that we've got a a point that is mentioning about donations, which is saying some of the completed pet food was donated to the SPCA. This donation was taken directly from the factory and delivered to the SPCA. But there is no amount that is mentioned in that statement, which means we don't have it, but we can find it as a balance figure since we are having all the elements of that work in progress stock, work in process stock that we have. So it's very easy for us to find that donation figure as we are finding it as a balancing figure. Since we are saying the donation figure is supposed to come here, it's supposed to come here as 522, and we are saying it was easy for us. It was easy for us to find this donation figure because we had all the figures. The balance CD was there, it's given at the beginning of the question. The balance BD is here, which is at the beginning. This one we are having it 35,000. Then we are having all other entries they are there. So donation was the only missing amount that was there in the work in process stock account. So it was easier for us to find it, as we are saying the total that we have on the debit, we subtract all what we have on the credit, and then the figure that we are left with becomes the donation figure, which is this one. So this is what we have, guys, according to this video. So we can also try to see in terms of our the relationship that exists there between the work in process stock account and also the factor and also the factor overhead costs account, so that we can be able to see that we have got a figure that is transferred from factor overhead cost account to the work in process account. So in terms of our dates, this is balance BD is at the beginning. So obviously this is going to be our September 1. And then all the entries that are going to follow become September at the end of the period is September 30. And then also on the credit side, all the entries that we are having become September 30. But our balance BD obviously is going to come here. Which is the same amount of the CD, 75,000. And the date that we are supposed to put here is now the next date of the following period, which is now going to be October 1. So these are the columns for there. So this September 30 is applying to all what is following until to balance CD September 30. Then here, that's why only having September 1 for the opening balance. And then the other entries becomes at the end of the period again, which is September 30. Then the BD now will be for the following period, which is October 1. So this is what we have guys about this video. Hopefully this video was helpful. Let's subscribe and share. Let's share the link to our colleagues who are doing the level accounting. As for this video, I'm signing out. We'll meet again in the next video.